Hello, and welcome back, my lovely Lovecraftians, to Book 2 of Borrasca. We last left off with the protagonist's sister being missing. Where? Nobody knows, but our likely trio did find some clues near the tree where you carve your name in the mountains, where urban legends take place of skinwalking men with terrible things where people go missing. Hopefully, our hero can find his sister and reunite his family. But until then, good morning. The words faded back into the ether, and I awoke with a start. Jimmy Prescott was lounging against the wall near the door, an amused yet disapproving look on his face. Shit, sorry, Mr. Prescott. I didn't hear you come in. You know, I worked here when I was a kid, too. I installed the bell on the door for this very reason. Didn't seem to wake you up, though. He laughed. I mumbled another apology and idly straightened the stack of business cards in front of me. Late night? Kind of. Yeah, very. I hope you weren't out at the bonfires with all the other underage drinker. No, sir. Yep. Good. Anyways, I'm just here for my lunch. I'll take a Parmesan chicken with avocado on rye. Yes, sir. Happy the conversation was over, I walked over to the sandwich counter and unwound the twisty tie from the rye bread. Jimmy Prescott stepped back from the counter and idly studied that picture on the wall, though he's seen them 1,000 times before. More of the photos were of the Prescott family, taken over the last century. I'd always thought it's odd decor, but then the shop was named after them, after all. Is Meera here? Prescott asked as I wrapped up his sandwich. She's in the back. Ah, I thought she'd be in St. Louis. Well, when you're finished, would you mind getting her for me? Shit. Yes, sir. I handed him his sandwich and went to the back to find Meera. She was in the office, furiously punching the keys on her accounting calculator. Meera? Jimmy Prescott is out front. He wants to talk to you. She turned and gave me a dubious look. Did he say, what about? I shook my head. Okay, she sighed. You can go home for the day, Sam. But, are you sure? I still had 3 hours on the clock. He's the only customer we've had since we opened. Don't worry, I'll pay you for a whole day, kiddo. Thanks, Meera. Good luck, I guess. I gave her a sympathetic look. And she patted my arm. I didn't know how she did it. Meera was perhaps the most burdened and stressed out woman in all of Drisking, but she never failed to be unbelievably kind. There is hopelessness about her, a sadness that she hid very well. I left the store out the back door, so I wouldn't have to see Jimmy Prescott again. His weird, yellowed amber eyes always set me on the edge, not to mention, he was a total tool. I hopped in my car and texted Kyle that I was off work. He answered immediately and told me to come meet him. I happily whipped my apron off over my head and threw it in the car into reverse. Crystal Lake was my favorite place in all of Drisking. I had to park almost a mile away since the lake was so packed. I eventually found Kyle and Kimber sitting on a rock that jutted out over the beach. Kimber was sunbathing in a blue floral bikini, and Kyle was wearing his "no one could tell where my eyes are looking" sunglasses. What'd I miss? I asked, sitting down next to Kimber. Not much, she answered, stretching and sitting up. Just more beer. She dug into the cooler behind her and tried to hand me a Blue Moon. Ugh, no. I waved away. Got any Excedrin? Oh, no. Kimber gave me the "I'm sorry" pout. Okay, then I'll just take those sunglasses. I held my hand out to Kyle, who looked back at it in horror. What? No. Fuck off. Oh, come on, Kyle. Give me your sunglasses. Sam, didn't you get to sleep off his hangover like we did? I smiled at Kyle, and he tightened his lips. We both know exactly what I was doing. Kimber stroked Kyle's arm in encouragement. Please. Fine, he said it and shoved his blue blockers at me. I put them on and sat back, turning my head to watch the girls on the beach below. Phoebe Dranger. dark-haired girl, was lying on a towel next to round-faced girl and giggling. It still seemed unnatural to me, the two of them without rudeness. The three had been inseparable, working as fluidly together as the gears in a watch, until Christy had fallen in love with some college kid and run away. So, why did you get out of work early? Kyle asked. Prescott came in. Ew, Kimber squirmed. He totally freaks me out. He's been staring at me since like the 5th grade. Next time he stares at you, let me know. I'll knock him the fuck out, Kyle said. He's always been protective over Kimber, but ever since they'd started dating, it's gotten 10 times more unbearable. Kimber winked at him. So, what did he want, Sam? He wanted to talk to Meera, probably about the sandwich shop. You mean about how no one goes there and the business should have closed years ago, but it won't because the Prescotts are stubborn and vain? Yeah, probably. I mean, she looked pretty worried. I can count on one hand how many sandwiches I've sold in the past month. Ouch, Kimber grimaced. Yeah, pretty sure she's going to get chewed out. I really don't like that guy. I thought about the squirmy, yellow-eyed freak yelling at sweet little Meera, and it made my blood boil. You should have met his dad, Kyle snorted. He was a peak of work. His dad? Yeah, Tom Prescott, Kimber said. The family put him in a home a few towns over. Why is he in a home? I heard he got dementia, and he was embarrassing the family in public, Kyle said. I heard that too. Kimber brushed her long curls off her shoulders. I always liked Tom Prescott. It was a pretty shitty thing to do. Hey, kids. We turned in unison to see Phil Saunders coming stomping out of the bushes behind us with Mike Sutton following behind. So, this is where the cool people hang out, high above the kingdom of Pride Rock. Sup, Mike? Cal said, ignoring Phil, whom he disliked ever since Phil had briefly dated Kimber. Phil was either unaware or uninterested in Kyle's feelings. Of course. That may also have been because Phil was stoned out of his mind most of the time, and now was no exception. They sat down next to us and Mike offered me his pipe. Wanna hit this? I did want to hit it, and pretty bad too. I reached up to grab it, but Phil swatted it away from my hand. Careful, guys. You don't want to get the sheriff's son high. For fuck's sakes, Mike. Mike nodded knowingly and shoved the pipe back in his pocket. I scowled. Really? Sorry, Sammy. Hell, the only reason I'm even smoking around you is because today is my cousin's death anniversary. I don't give a shit about anything else. Your cousin Hannah? Kimber asked with a sympathetic look. Yep. 5 years she's been gone. Too many people disappear in those woods, man. Mike said as he exhaled a cloud of smoke. Yeah, man. Phil nodded. You know something? When I'm high, I can see them all, and I feel like I know the answers to the mystery, man. Like, I'm so close to solving it. It's just something I can see, like, they're all puzzle pieces in my mind. I see the puzzle put together, but I can't tell what the picture is of, you know? You're fucking high, Saunders, Kyle said. We all are, man. We all are. Everyone in this town is drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. Kimber raised an eyebrow at him, but said nothing. Everyone except the dead ones. I can see what they look like before they went into the ground. Or is it the grounder? Shit, I don't know, man. Mike said in the space in front of him. Yeah, I see all these people. Hannah, Paige, Jason, Metley. Hell, I even see her sister Walker. Kyle, who I knew had been monitoring the conversation, for mentioning this very thing, sprang up to his feet and opened his mouth to yell at Poole. Nah, Whitney Walker ran away to St. Louis, remember? Mike said. I saw Kyle and Kimber exchange a quick look as I tried to remain impassive behind the blue blockers. That true, man? Phil asked. And there it was. I knew Kyle and Kimber had always wondered what I thought about Whitney, and if I ever accepted the official statement that she and Jade ran away together. They were kind enough not to bring it up, but I knew they wanted to know what I believed, what I thought had really happened. I loved them both, and I wanted to talk to them about it, but I just couldn't. Everyone thought I had spent the last 7 years quietly grieving, and that I put the incident behind me. At least, that's what I tried to show them. The truth was, I never given up on Whitney. I'd waited years for Jay to show up on social media, and when I finally found him last year, I'd been devastated. I'd always hoped the official report was right, and that Whitney was somewhere far away from here, alive and happy with Jay Bauer. But his MySpace showed a thriving teenager, still living at home with his parents. His ex-girlfriend Whitney, the furthest thing from his mind. When I brought the evidence to my dad, he read the pages I printed off, and then shut the door to his office with me on the other side. I heard him crying in there for hours, as I waited for him to reopen the case and bring the smackdown on the Butler County Sheriff Department, but justice had never come, and we never mentioned Jay Bauer again. For whatever reason, I never told Kyle and Kimber about any of that. Maybe it was because I was worried they'd blow it off like my dad had, or maybe, if far more likely, I didn't want them to know how obsessed I'd become with the Borrasca and the Skin Men. I knew as assuredly as the sun would rise tomorrow that Whitney's death had happened at there, just like the others who'd gone to the Triple Tree. I was suddenly very aware of 4 pairs of eyes staring at me. Yeah, it's true. She ran off with this guy Jay from our hometown, and I answered. That was enough for Kyle. Alright, guys, seriously, he's the sheriff's kid. What do you think is gonna happen if he gets caught with weed? Little man is right, Phil. Let's bounce. I don't need any more trouble with the cops around here, Mike said. Later, Walker, Kimber, little man. Phil stood up, brushed off his pants, and jumped from the boulder onto the sandy beach below. He sprayed sand all over a couple of freshman girls who squealed and called him an unthoughtful ass. Phil tipped his invisible hat to them and said, "Ladies," before walking off. Mike followed him down, and I watched them make their way down the beach. I became aware of the conversation going on behind me. I didn't say I wanted to go. I said I had to go, Kimber said. It's only 2 o'clock on a Sunday. I know, but my parents have been fighting a lot lately, and I don't want to leave my mom alone for too long. I thought she was doing better. A little, but she's still depressed, Kyle. Do you want to stay over at my place tonight? Kimber's voice dropped into a whisper. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. What? No, wait, that's not what I meant. I'd sleep on the pullout in the basement, and you would have my room. Very awkward silence. My parents love you, you know, he added. Kimber laughed. I know. I just want to be there for my mom right now. But thank you, sweetie. And then the absolutely disgusting sound of my best friends kissing. I would never get used to it. Ugh. On that note, I'm out of here too. I stood up and gave them both a shaming look. Oh, come on, Sam. Don't be jealous. We'll find you a girlfriend someday, Kyle joked. I really don't need your help with that, I muttered, glancing down at the beach where Emmeline Adler was sunbathing. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Last week of school, Kimber yelled at my retreating back. Thank God. Tomorrow was the last Monday of the school year, and while I should have been thankful my sophomore year was ending, I wasn't. The summer meant no distractions, more time to think, and even more hours of boredom at the Prescott's Artisan Sandwiches. But I wasn't looking forward to tomorrow for another reason. Beside it being Monday, it was also sophomore ditch day. My dad had caught on that several weeks ago and warned me to set a good example and go to school that day. Sometimes I really hated being the son of a cop. Kimber and Kyle were sympathetic and had offered to share my misery. I had, of course, said yes, much to Kyle's sadness. As I'd expected, my dad was waiting for me when I got home. We shared a brief, strained conversation about our respective days, and he finally got to it. Remember, Sammy, we're tracking down on truancy this year. I want to see you at school tomorrow. Yeah, I got it, Dad. And I hope I won't have to write a ticket to Kyle either. I sighed. It's just a tradition. You and the teacher sort of encourage it. On Friday, they said. I don't care what they said, Sam. Besides the fact that I'm the sheriff, I'm also your father, and I want my son in school. I laughed and shook my head. What a joke. I can't control what Kyle does. Fair enough, but you can control what you do. I said nothing, and Dad sighed. It's almost over, Sam. Just get through these last 5 days. You can be done with school for a few months. Fine. I walked out of the kitchen, rudely ending the conversation. I climbed up the stairs and passed by Whitney's door on the way to my room. The light was on, and silence was behind it. I knew my mother was in there. She was always in there, doing God knows what. I walked to my own room, shut the door behind me, and locked it. The next day at school ended up being more embarrassing than anything else. There were a few other people that hadn't skipped, maybe a total of 10 of us. Look, they shot at me made it clear that my dad was the reason they were there. Kimber, great friend that she was, happily went to her classes like a normal day. Kyle attended all my classes with me. The teachers who had been looking forward to an easy day couldn't have cared less. Just before lunch, an officer came around to all the classrooms and asked for copies of the attendance sheets. Dad wasn't really kidding about cracking down this year. I was going to get shit from people all summer. At lunch, Kyle and I went to my car to smoke. Usually we were hiding, trying to get away with it. And, of course, there's dozens of large pickup trucks, but today we were out in the open and vulnerable. I moved the car back to a shady corner of the parking lot, and Kyle pulled out his bowl. "Did you text Kimber?" I asked him while he hit it. "Yep," he said through his tight lips as he let the smoke sit in his lungs and then he blew it out over my dashboard. "She went home around fourth period. She said her mom called her and she was going to go home and take care of her." "I don't know, man." "Doesn't her mom hate you?" I asked, taking my turn with the bowl. "Yeah, I mean, that's a fairly new development ever since Kimber and I started dating, but I'm pretty sure she's only hated me and just did it better before. Now that she's all depressed and whatever, she doesn't give a shit." It was hard to picture anyone hating Kyle. Why can't Kimber's dad take care of her? I don't know, man. I hit the pipe again. "Hey, man, let's not even go back today," Kyle said. "You think?" I asked. "Yeah. I mean, you put in 4 periods. You've been a good son. An officer dick-ass already came around and collected the attendance sheets. Dick-ass, really. You're better than that, man. Officer ass dick? You're fucking big, Kyle. Seriously, man, let's go." I thought about it for a second. Kyle was right. I'd done my duty as a son, and if I left now, I'd have even more time to go to GameStop before work. Fuck it. I turned on the ignition. Kyle sat up in his chair and rolled down the window to clear out its smoke. "Hey, man, can you drop me by Kimber's?" "Sure. But how are you gonna get home?" "Can you come get me after work?" "What if her mom throws you out again?" Kyle rolled his eyes. "That was one time. Why can't I just drop you off at home and you can take your own car?" "It needs new tires." New tires, of course. What Kyle really means that his insurance had lapsed and he didn't have any money for gas anyways. He'd bought the car last summer after working double shifts at this convenience store for half a year. It was an okay car, newer, but I knew he'd only wanted it to impress Kimber, something he'd vehemently denied. Had it worked? Not in my opinion. They started dating in the fall, and Kyle quit his job to spend more time with her. Kimber didn't seem like the kind of girl to be impressed by a Pontiac Bonneville, but Kyle was convinced that's how he'd won her over. I was sure all the car had really done was give him the confidence to ask her out, and now that its part of their romance ended, the car sat in the garage of the Landley home collecting dust instead of memories. GameStop didn't have what I had or wanted either. Neither did Drisking Games and Media. Since I had nothing else to do, I decided to show up to work early and hope Meera would let me leave early too. I parked in the front and walked in the door, unsurprised to see no one on the front counter. There were only 3 of us that worked in the shop, sadly. I never got to see the other girl, Emmeline, who worked on the days I didn't. This was disappointing to me, since she was half the reason I applied in the first place. I went into the back to tell Meera I was there and found her slumped over her desk on a pile of receipts and paperwork. This wasn't an unusual way to find Meera, but something seemed different today. I immediately felt a disturbance in the force. Before I could run away, she turned towards me and saw I was right to flee. Meera was crying. Are you, I'm sorry, she said quickly, wiping her tears. "Is it 4 already?" "No, it's 2:50 p.m. I just thought maybe if I came in early." "Oh, right, it's your ditch day." Meera wiped her eyes, only to have them fill with tears again. I don't understand, store. Store. It's been operating in the red ever since I hired to manage it. What am I doing wrong? I don't know, I offered lamely, the instinct to escape never stronger. No one comes in here ever. Mr. Prescott refuses to let me put up signs to advertise. He says they're unsightly. But how does he expect me to pool in business? I need this job, Sam. God, I must have looked like a frightened deer because Meera glanced over to me and she seemed to suddenly collect herself. Go ahead and go out to the front. I'll do your time card. She didn't have to tell me twice. I really liked Meera, and I hated seeing her like this. The front didn't end up being much better. I could hear Meera crying over the store's data music track. Her sobs went through painfully audible to muffled whimpers. After half an hour, I decided I had to do something. Since I was entirely unequipped to deal with an adult woman's emotions, I decided to call Meera's husband, Owen. He was thankfully at home and answered on the second ring. I'll be right there. I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard a car pull up outside and saw a tall, girthy Owen get out of it. He walked in during a quiet lull and his wife's breakdown. I'm sorry to call you at home, Mr. Daly. I just didn't know what else to do. That's okay, Sam. You did the right thing. He looked tired, and I could tell the situation wasn't new to him. Is she okay? I mean, will she be okay? Oh, yeah, he nodded. We're just going through some things. Oh, Meera said the store is going bankrupt, too. I winced as soon as the words were out of my mouth. Yeah, Owen ran a hand through his hair. That's part of it. Although I don't think Jim is going to let that happen. Meera's more upset about, he sighed. Has Meera told you about her, appointments? No. Well, we've been trying to get pregnant for years. Long, painful years. It's just so goddamn important for her to have a baby. And she blames me for our problems. He walked around the room, staring at the pictures, not really talking to me anymore. I understand why it's important to her. I just don't understand the obsession with it, because she's the last one in her family, because she's the last McCaskey on the planet. I mean, does she even realize our baby wouldn't be a McCaskey? He'd be a Daly, I tell you, Sam. Never marry a woman with a crazy father and 4 dead uncles. They've developed this obsession about lineage and 4 dead uncles. What? Oh, yeah, the famous ones. The 4 brothers who died in the Drisking mines. Well, that only left her dad, and her parents were only able to conceive her, which leaves her as the last McCaskey, and hope for the family line. So, of course, you see how this is all my fault. I looked at him blankly and he sighed. I'm sorry, kid. These aren't your problems, and they're way over your pay grade anyways. I'm just very stressed out these days. Our fertility issues and Meera's absolute abhorrence to our only other option. But how did they die? I was desperate to talk about anything else, and the story of Meera's uncles interested me. The McCaskey boys. I don't really know. They died on the mountain somewhere. Oh, well, have you heard of the Skin Men? Skin Men? Yeah, I don't think so. What about Borrasca? Owen Daly squeezed his eyes shut and pushed on his temples with his fingers. What? What does a Borrasca have to do with anything? Owen, Meera's voice squeaked from the doorway. Aw, baby, are you okay? Sam called the house. I want to do it. You do? Owen asked dubiously. I called him. His eyes flicked over to me, and I immediately looked away. Another conversation I didn't want to be a part of. Sam, why don't you take off for the day? Meera and I will handle things. Okay, I mumbled and booted for the door. Once I was in the car and backing away, I called Kyle. Dude, fucking weird shit is going down in this town. What happened? I can't explain it over the phone. Where are you? I'm at Kimber's. Are you off work? Yeah, I'm coming to get you. By Kimber's, Kyle meant sitting on the curb in front of the house, kicked off the property again. When I pulled up, Kimber came out and met us on the curb. I'm so sorry, Kyle, she said. She's really upset today. She wouldn't even let me leave the house to sit with you. It's okay, he said. Don't worry about me. I just want to make sure you and your mom are okay. We're okay, and my dad will be home soon. Text us when he gets home and we'll come get you, I said. I wish I could. I'm babysitting tonight until 7:30. Maybe after that? Sure. Kyle and Kimber hugged goodbye, and then Kimber rushed back in the house as something crashed inside. So what's going on, Kyle asked, taking a drink of warm Dr. Pepper sitting in my cup holder. You're still wearing your apron, Meera had a breakdown, I said, peeling off. Really, what happened? I told Kyle the full story, giving particular attention to the 4 uncles. Yeah, the McCaskies, I've heard of them. Didn't know Meera was one, though. I thought they were all dead. Yeah, she's the last one, so, do you think the McCaskey's deaths have anything to do with the other disappearance? It had been a while since I mentioned anything about Borrasca, and Child choked a little on the Dr. Pepper. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe. If the disappearance started around the same time, how can we find that out? Maybe the cops? There has to be police reports. Okay, but what if I couldn't? Asked my dad. Kyle shook his head. I don't know then. What about, like, records? The historical society people, maybe? Oh, yeah, he said, nodding. We can try them. They're over on 2nd. They share an office with the Drisking arts and antiques. I made a U-turn and started back towards the town. And that's where we will leave off for today. So far, I feel like the story is building towards a climax that we are finally going to understand about Borrasca. I can't wait to see the rich, deep history and maybe even theorize that the 4 uncles that died are the skinned men because burns make you look almost skinned. They pierce right through each and every layer. Possibly, I hope they find Whitney as well, but she might have already met a grisly fate. I also didn't expect Kimber and Kyle to be together. I theorized more that that would be Sam and Kimber, since he thought she looked pretty in elementary school. But we time skipped past into the future, and now the past is left behind. So with progress, I guess we might have missed some of the character building throughout. But I feel like it's still very important that the families have their own dynamics going on, which is weird because we don't know much about Kyle's family. But we've explored Kimber's and Sam's, so hopefully we'll get more insight on that. Overall, I do see that the dad's still trying to be protective, but also let Sam have a childhood, and I find that very admirable, especially with everything going on. I also see that they are doing a lot of things that could be used as coping mechanisms, and even not talking about what is going on, so it might affect Kimber and Kyle as well. With that said, until next time, bye-bye. Oh, and one last thing. This was dedicated to Cami Kazali. Thank you for being a Cthulhu devotee, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your night, my lovely love crap.